Well, not exactly breaking news, but close enough to be breaking news. Marvel Studios has removed Blade from their 2025 release calendar. Shocker of the century right there. Who could have foreseen that the MCU Blade movie would be delayed indefinitely once again? And what's sad is the new Predator movie, Predator Badlands, will take Blade's original release date of November 7th, 2025. By the way, Predator Badlands being a sequel to Prey that released directly onto streaming, but after the success of Evil Dead Rise, Disney was probably kicking themselves in the pants for not releasing that in theaters. And that's when you got Alien Romulus to release in theaters, because people often forget, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, but people forget that Alien Romulus was originally going to go directly to Hulu, but after the success of Evil Dead Rise in the theaters, Disney released Alien Romulus in theaters, probably why they're releasing the new Predator movie in theaters instead of directly to streaming. And getting back to the MCU's Blade, I know I went off on a tangent. This MCU Blade movie was announced all the way back in 2019 at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was originally going to release in 2023. Now, at this point, what I can foresee happening is that the MCU's Blade movie is likely going to get canceled, and this is the last that we're really going to hear of it. They're basically going to Star Trek 4 this movie. If you don't know about the production history of the Kelvin timeline Star Trek 4 with Chris Pine, Zachary Quino, and Carl Urban, that movie has been in production since 2015. They tried reviving interest in it back in 2023, and it went absolutely nowhere. But just to put everything into perspective with the MCU's Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali, this movie has now gone through two different directors. The first one attached was Bassam Tariq all the way back in 2021. And then Yad Damange took over when Bassam Tariq departed in, I think, 2022 or early 2023. And also the movie went through a plethora of different writers. You had Stacey Oster Kafour and Bassam Tariq were originally going to split writing duties. This was back in 2021. At one point, Beau DeMaio, who was a writer for the X-Men 97 series on Disney+, was rumored to be attached to the movie back in 2022, but I do want to stress that that was never confirmed, so take that with a grain of salt. Michael Starbury was brought on as a writer in November 2022. Nick Pizzolatto joined the movie in April of 2023. And finally, Eric Pearson joined as a writer in June of 2024, making him the fifth official writer on this movie. And going back to 2023, the original release date for the MCU's Blade, rumors were spreading that Mahershala Ali and Marvel were having a lot of disagreements on the direction of the movie. And this is from a Variety article published in November of 2023. Quote, "One person familiar with the script permutation says the story at one point morphed into a narrative led by women and filled with life lessons. Blade was relegated to the fourth lead." End quote. Rumors at the time were that Mahershala Ali was ready to walk away completely from the movie, according to this same article. And now, if you're Marvel Studios and you're looking at this Blade movie that you announced all the way back in 2019, and now you're seeing the road to getting the movie made, one problem that Marvel Studios could run into is that the production history of the movie itself is far more interesting than the movie that was made. The one that immediately comes to the top of my head is the Angry Video Game Nerd movie that came out in 2014. I mean, the movie is awful. James Rolfe basically just took, 10 pounds of shit and tried to cram it into a 2-pound bag. But if you watch all of the behind-the-scenes documentaries on the lengths that they were going to get the movie made, that objectively, at least to me, I shouldn't say objectively, that's a bad term, so let me rephrase. Okay, the behind-the-scenes of the Angry Video Game Nerd movie, all the behind-the-scenes documentaries that James Rolfe released, to me were far more interesting than the final movie itself. So if you're Marvel and you're looking at, oh, the behind the scenes is a lot more juicy, a lot more interesting, now this movie is going to have such unrealistic expectations that do we just quietly shelve the movie and move on? Or do we try to actually release it? And as many people have brought up, I'm gonna bring this up myself, is that it's better to have no Blade movie than a bad Blade movie. There has been this very pervasive idea within fandoms, and the Survivor fandom is notorious for having this mindset of, well, even though it was a bad season of Survivor is better than no Survivor at all. Like, no, if it's a turd, if that season of Survivor was a dog turd and they're just releasing turd after turd after turd, wouldn't it be better if it just went away completely and now you don't have this amalgamation of what the movie or the show turned into, because the movie series or the show or the TV show turned into such a pile of shit, it probably should have just died years and years ago. But, oh, well, you know, a bad season of XYZ TV show is better than having no season of XYZ TV show. Imagine if the show Supernatural was still ongoing. You know, if they get up to like season 23 now or 24, I think the show ended with season 15. Most fans agree that the show should have ended with season 8. Imagine if that show was still going and you heard the same mantras that, well, even a bad season of Supernatural is better than no season of Supernatural at all. You would probably want to punch that guy in the face. And to tie this back into Blade, and honestly, I think the biggest reason why Marvel should just outright shelve the movie and just move on is because the biggest hurdle that is facing the MCU's Blade movie is this. Wesley Snipes, for all intents and purposes, is Blade. Okay, all the martial arts that was in the Blade movies from 98, I think Blade Trinity came out in 2004, all of the martial arts in the movie, that was all Wesley Snipes. That was not in the comics. Okay, Wesley Snipes, to a lot of people, was Blade. And the biggest clue as to how people are guessing that the MCU Blade movie is being canceled is because Wesley Snipes was brought into Deadpool and Wolverine as Blade, and Wesley Snipes even had a line that, you know, was like something to this effect that there is only one Blade, and that was in reference to the Punisher. And at one point in the movie, I would play the clip from the movie itself, but it'll probably get claimed by Disney and the video will go down anyway. But at one point in the movie, they're riding to fight Cassandra, and they make note that, you know, Blade pulls out a rocket launcher that they stole from the Punisher, and Deadpool asks which Punisher. There's been like 5 of them, and that's when Wesley Snipes' Blade quips back with, yes, but there's only one Blade. So why would you go so far as to make that line and leave it in the movie, knowing full well that Deadpool and Wolverine, well, sure, Deadpool and Wolverine, you know, Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy had a lot of creative freedom on Deadpool and Wolverine, but if you're Kevin Feige, if you're Bob Iger, why are you leaving in Wesley Snipes' line of there is only one Blade if you're intending to make a Blade movie within the MCU starring a completely different actor, and Wesley Snipes having absolutely no part in it whatsoever? So here's what I can foresee. I'm going to tie this back to the beginning. We're gonna wrap it up here. Is the MCU Blade movie, for all intents and purposes, is now dead, and this is the last time that you're ever going to hear about it. It's been in development hell for the last 5 years, and has now been completely removed from the 2025 release calendar, has gone through 2 different directors, is looking for a third one, and has gone through a plethora of different writers. It is safe to say that this movie, after this news story of Blade being removed from the 2025 release calendar, it's safe to say that Blade has indeed been quietly canceled, almost like how the Kang dynasty after the Jonathan Majors, all the stuff with Jonathan Majors came out, which he was found guilty of, and the MCU had to pivot away from Kang because, oh crap, we made Jonathan Majors every single version of Kang, because remember, Avengers Doomsday was originally called Avengers the Kang Dynasty. But again, after Jonathan Majors was found guilty of doing a certain thing to a woman, Marvel had to pivot. Marvel should pivot again once away from Blade and just say, okay, you know what? Wesley Snipes is Blade. We are not conquering that mountain. And at this point, we're going through so many different directors, so many different writers, and being such a production hell that the story of the production hell itself is far more juicy and far more interesting than any Blade movie that Marvel Studios could ever hope to put out at this point.